HarperCollins and HarperAudio present The Madman Theory, Trump Takes on the World by Jim Sciutto. This is the author. To Gloria, Tristan, Caden, and Sinclair. Introduction. The Madman Theory. There was a frightening and telling moment in the depths of the Vietnam War when the reeling President Richard Nixon delivered an astonishing order to his national security advisor, Henry Kissinger. Nixon told Kissinger to convey to his North Vietnamese counterparts that he, the president, will stop at nothing if the stalling negotiations between the two sides failed to make progress toward the honorable withdrawal Nixon was seeking. And by stop at nothing, Nixon meant, bluntly, to attack North Vietnam with nuclear weapons. You can say, I cannot control him. Put it that way, Nixon said. Yeah, and imply that you might use nuclear weapons, Kissinger replied. Yes, sir, the president answered, specifying even the words Kissinger should use. He will. I just want you to know he is not going to cave. As matter-of-factly maniacal as this sounds, according to Nixon historian Tim Naftali, President Nixon believed he was acting very reasonably on the wisdom of one of his predecessors, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Nixon's idea wasn't actually his, Naftali explained. It was based on an idea of how the Korean War ended, that Eisenhower, hinting that he might use nuclear weapons against North Korea, encouraged the Chinese to settle. The trouble is, he added, that there is not much evidence that any such threat from Eisenhower actually helped end the Korean War. Regardless, in 1971, at the height of another war that had already killed tens of thousands of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese, the sitting U.S. president deliberately communicated to his adversary that he was just mad enough to launch nuclear weapons. Nixon and Kissinger decide we have to scare the hell out of the Vietnamese, said Naftali. Nixon believes the North remembers what Eisenhower had done, and so he and Kissinger think of this idiotic scare tactic. In the end, Kissinger did send President Nixon's desired warning to the North Vietnamese, but Hanoi did not back down. According to Naftali, seeing their scare tactic wasn't working, Nixon and Kissinger then backed off themselves, and the threat of looming nuclear conflict disappeared. The theory behind it, however, did not disappear. In fact, in the months and years that followed, Nixon took ownership of what he himself described as the Madman Theory. As Naftali has noted, Nixon's chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman, later summarized the theory in his memoir as a threat of egregious military action by an unpredictable U.S. president. Nearly 50 years later, a new U.S. president introduced and executed a madman theory of his own. Donald Trump hinted he just might be crazy enough to start a nuclear war with his infamous fire and fury threat against North Korea and public battle with the North Korean leader over whose nuclear button is bigger. He repeatedly bragged in public of his ability to kill millions of people in Afghanistan. Those were serious moments when some of his own most senior advisors worried that he might take the country to war, wittingly or unwittingly, despite the fact that he has no real appetite for military conflict. Quite the opposite, those same advisors say. However, Trump's madman is more prolific, the product of his uniquely capricious and unpredictable decision-making across the entire spectrum of U.S. foreign policy. This is sometimes by accident and sometimes deliberate, and unlike Nixon, he has unleashed his madman not only on our adversaries, but also on our allies, and often, according to several senior advisors interviewed for this book, on his own government. The general...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?